Okay, hello, we're recording. Today we're doing a special once-off mothers group just to support our collective community through the pandemic that's currently turning all of our lives upside down. And what we're going to do today is just to give a few people, we've got a lot of people listening in, and we'll have a few of them who are happy to share some of their own emotions, their own experiences. And if you're talking, we'll put your microphone on. So as the host, I'll be able to mute and unmute you. And I'd love to see everyone else in the chat when it's not your turn to have your microphone on. You can still be offering your support and encouragement in the text chat. So, you know, please do, you know, keep communicating with everyone, even if your mic's not turned on. It is beautiful to see your beautiful faces in all this chaos and in these hard times. I know some of you are already quarantined or self-isolating, so thank you for being here, and thank you for everyone else for being here, even if you don't have to be. You know, if you are allowed to go out and about still, it's even more special that you've made the time to be here and support each other through this. So I wanted to start with a song. So what I'm going to do is actually hang on, let me just find my controls, manage participants. What I'm actually going to do is, anyone who's happy to sing, you can sing. If anyone's got kids in the background, just let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to turn your microphones on, okay? And we're all going to sing a little song together to get started. So I'm just going to unmute you all. Maybe let me know if you don't want to be unmuted. If you've got like kids around or other kind of background noise, just shout out. Hello, I can start to hear you all. But let me know if you don't want to be unmuted. You have kids, Ada, so I'll leave you muted. Unless you want to be, that's up to you. If they're being quiet, you can actually control your own. Oh, sorry, Ada. There we go. I did. And someone's got a TV on too, so whoever that is, we might leave you. Oh, it's just bouncing around, Heather. Unmute. All right, I think we've got everyone on now, except for Ada. Oh, and a few people. Have you guys turned yourselves off? Brilliant. Well done for figuring that out. All right, so this is the song. Some of you may have seen this. We shared it in the group. And it's a song by Alison Davies, who you all know I love her work. She's a neurological music therapist. I think that's her proper name. And she has really great resources for things like stress management and keeping calm, both as parents and with kids. So sing along if you know it. Otherwise, you'll be able to catch up. As soon as I sing it the second time, you'll be able to get it because it's very catchy. Every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is and well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is happy and well. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is I'm so glad every little cell in my body is happy and well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is happy and well. Woohoo! All right. It kind of didn't work because I think a few of you are all like, you know, the internet connection means we're all not synced. But that's been a really fun song for us to sing around the house, particularly if your kids are freaking out. It's nice to sing that. I think I was singing everyone's every little cell in my body is healthy, but I think Alison actually sang originally every little cell in my body is happy. You can sing it either way. You could add any words you want, but Alison really encourages people to just sing anything. You can listen to her on my podcast if you want a little bit of singing inspiration. It was like a round. Yeah, I was thinking that, a not quite synced up round. But you could probably sing that song as a round. Katie says she sang this song with my kids this morning. My daughter was loving it and dancing along. Yeah, it's so catchy and fun. I know that kids are feeling quite anxious at the moment. My kids at school have been playing Coronavirus It, which the teachers have told them to stop playing. But I was thinking it's probably quite natural for kids to process what they're going through by playing. And I know, you know, like Ring a Ring a Rosies was a song that came about and a game that came about because of a pandemic. So, you know, it's quite natural for us to feel a little bit of anxiety. I know my son, although he says he's not worried, he's been having lots of tummy aches. So I think it's really good that we, you know, as a family, just have some ways of coping with this. And I wanted to make sure that today you have some ways of coping with this too. So we have some group guidelines just before we everyone has a little turn to have a chat and share, you know, what it is that you're feeling and what you're going through. Yeah, Bluey style. Bluey is such a great TV show. If we've got international viewers, Bluey is an Australian kids TV show that's got so much play in it, and all that the adults play with the kids, which I really love as well. And it's available internationally. Yeah, it was been winning lots of awards. Okay, oops. Oh, I've lost my group guidelines. Hang on. Sorry, I should have had these ready. But maybe you guys can just help me, and all we can do is just type into the chat what you want from this group today, and maybe any guidelines. My first guideline is a very boring practical one, but I'd like to make sure that everyone's privacy is protected. So when we all take a turn sharing, if you're talking about anyone else, not yourself, if you're talking about a friend or a client or a family member, please do take care to not identify who it is that you're talking to in any way that might be, you know, mean that other people listening know who you're talking about. So we're just going to make sure that we're protecting everyone's privacy. I would usually say in a mum's group that what we say in the mum's group stays in the mum's group, but it's a little bit different today because we will be recording and sharing this mum's group with other people. So it isn't going to be staying here. So that's the other thing I want you to be reminded of before you have a go of chatting. Whatever you say here may be seen by other people. So please don't share anything that you're not happy for it to be public. So this wouldn't usually be the case with a mum's group. So usually it would be private and probably not recorded. So usually I'd ask you to not share outside of this group what people have shared with you today. Yes, non-judgmental is the other kind of key kind of guideline of this group, that no matter what people say, we might not all kind of agree about things, and that's okay. But the most important thing is that we all respect each other's different personalities, different families, different decision-making processes, different culture, all these different things about us. And that what makes us really strong as mothers is our creativity and our resilience, and we respect each other's really different creative ways of solving problems. Yeah, I like that Emmeline suggests that even though it's not private, we still don't gossip about it. So, you know, we still respect each other's, even though it's not quite privacy, but we take this seriously and support each other's emotions. All right, I think that's probably enough just as little guidelines. If you were running a longer group, you could actually create more, you know, more kind of structured guidelines than that. And sometimes you can get people to take turns reading it out. Say if there's 5 different guidelines, then 5 people in the group can just take a turn reading one of them each, just as a kind of affirmation and a centering in the group. I'll work with all of you anyway on a regular basis. So I know we already have a really trusting and responsible community. So I feel very confident here. However, if you're bringing a newer group together, you might need to formalize that a little bit more if these people haven't met each other before. All right. Okay, we're going to get stuck in. What I'm going to ask you to do, Rachel, if you're happy to go first, just because you volunteered first, what I'm going to ask you to do is just spend, I'm going to be the timekeeper. We'll just spend maybe 7 minutes each. I'm just going to say as a rough guideline. You don't need to use all of the time if you don't want to. If you need a little bit more, that's okay as well. But just to make sure that we all get a turn and that we're not here all day long, I'll just use 7 minutes as a rough guide. When you do share, we'll unmute your microphone, and Brie, I can see you've done that already. And what I'd really like to hear from you is anything that you feel like you need to share today. But also feel free to start with sharing any challenges that you are experiencing this week as a result of coronavirus or anything else that's going on in your life. And also, if we can maybe end each person's turn, I'll remind you at the end, so you don't have to worry about this bit, but a highlight, something positive that you've seen this week, maybe a way that people are coping or supporting each other that's been inspiring would be really lovely too. So, and everyone else can chat in the chat, the typing chat. Do you want to get started then? Oh, Bree, it was Bree who unmuted herself. Do you want to go first, Bree?
Sure.
Cool, you can go for it, and then we'll get you.
I didn't realize I had done that. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I thought when I saw someone had unmuted, I thought it was Rachel, but then I realized it was you. So now you're in the hot seat.
Okay, no problem. And I'm sorry, my kids are probably being a bit noisy in the background. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're all mums, so that's, we're all used to that.
So yeah, I guess I can start with saying some things that I'm worried about. And I'm worried as I'm a solo parent and my kids are 3 next month. So my fear is not so much my kids getting sick, because if I'm okay, I can take care of my kids. I'm more afraid of myself getting sick, because if I get bad and I'm in hospital, I don't have anyone to look after my kids. So I'm worried about what will happen if I end up in hospital. Because if something happens to me and I ended up in hospital, I do have people around me, I do have a village, my boys will be taken care of. But if I'm sick with coronavirus, that means my kids are probably sick with coronavirus, and my village are all other families. So no one's going to be jumping to take care of my boys because they're putting their own family at risk. So that's sort of where I'm at with coronavirus. And I know a lot of other single parents are afraid that if we go into a lockdown and their kids are with the other parents if it's the other parents' weekends, they're then afraid that they're going to lose their kids, because at the time of a lockdown, if their kids have to stay with dads, the mums are afraid that they're not going to get their kids back for a long time. And I'm not sure how that's going to work, but that's a fear that I'm seeing a lot. And I know someone else who's taken her kids out of school already, because she's got 6 kids. Her husband isn't in the best of health, and she's terrified of becoming a single mum of 6 kids. And I think people are really kind of judging at the moment, saying people are being overreactive by taking kids out of school. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think everyone needs to do what they think is best at this time. And I personally, I'm taking my kids out of daycare. They just go once a week at the moment, but I'm taking them out of daycare so that the parents who are still working, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, there are kids that need to be there right now, and my kids don't need to be there. It's just so I can have a bit of a break once a week, just to kind of keep my sanity a bit. But really it's not necessary for them to be there. So I'm going to take them out for the time being. And my daycare, the company is really fantastic. They're going to hold their spots, but just charge me $1 a day per child. So it's going to cost me $2 a week for my kids not to attend, but to hold their space. So I think that's really fantastic that they're offering that. And yeah, but I'm actually kind of being blown away by seeing just the creativity of people coming out. So I've got one friend who's lost his job, but he's now doing online guitar lessons for children through to adults. And he's actually starting, if the interest that he's getting transpires into actual people taking him up on the offer, he's going to be making more money doing his online guitar lessons than he was at the job that he's just lost. My naturopath, I had an appointment at the beginning of the week, and she said, can we can we just do a phone call instead of coming in to see me? And I said, yep, that's fine. And now she's advertising her, doing all of her appointments sort of online and phones. So now she's getting people contacting her, especially a lot of mums who have been wanting to see her but couldn't fit it into their day-to-day life, but now they can make an appointment with her because they can make the call while they're sleeping. So she's actually finding that all of a sudden she can grow her business through this time and tucking into a new market that she didn't have before. I saw a mum who's organising an online interactive birthday party for her child. So she's sending out activities to all the families, and the kids are going to just at the same time do the same activities. And so I just think that's like super clever. What else was I going to say? There was something else I saw. I can't think of it right now. But I think it is really awful and really sad to see so many people losing their jobs and fearful for losing their jobs. I know I've got friends in hospitality that, have been let go. But at the same time, I'm seeing people come up with new things. I'm about to take, here's one of my little boys. Say hi. I'm about to take, my play group has been shut down just because, again, it's not necessary for us to be all together. So I'm now going to be hosting for all of our parents story time once a day. I'm going to sit down and read a story to all the kids. So just so that, parents can have a little break if they're not getting out as per normal.
I love it. They're such beautiful updates. It's just a few things come to mind. One of them is just that really generous response of businesses. I think businesses that can have been, as supportive as they can be, and that's been really inspiring. And yes, Tanya says there is such beauty amongst the pain and the chaos. I agree. I also think what Tanya commented on earlier was, and Rachel as well, that we hadn't, as not being single parents, hadn't really considered the complexity of being a single parent at this time. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, and that now we can all look amongst our own communities and make sure that we're supporting our people who live in our own neighbourhoods who are single parents. And there are lots of online groups. Oh, that's your time. I bet you were done anyway. There are lots of online community care groups, where they're hooking you up with people in your neighbourhood. I know we've got a WhatsApp group for my street. We've also got a doctor healthcare group where you pop your postcode in and you can support a family, where there's a doctor or a nurse in your local neighbourhood. And I know that our local government as well is setting up a community care program. They'll actually be touching base with all of their residents over the age of 65 individually, and helping to make sure that they've got neighbourhood support too. So, Bree, I hope you can find some support as a single parent through some of those kind of avenues as well, because, we are often being surprised at the generosity of total strangers, and this could be the one benefit of this, is it forces us to grow our village and get out of our comfort zone, because we are going to need to ask for help in new ways, and sometimes from people we've never even met before. So Thank you so much for sharing, Bree. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's good for now.
Beautiful. That was really, really, it was really interesting for me to hear your perspective. And I really feel for you as a single parent. That would be a big concern.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Beautiful. All right, Rachel, do you want to jump on next now? Do you know how to unmute your microphone? Yes, there you
go. Thank you, Bree. That was really, do have a few single friends and family members. I knew one friend that was having trouble sort of making decisions about, going to school or not going to school with her ex-wife. And I just know there's been a few things like that. I never had thought about the isolation aspect of it. So definitely something I'll be keeping in mind with those around me. For me, I've I feel like I've already been in isolation for a few weeks because we've had non-stop colds and infections in our house. I've got a 5-year-old who started school and has just like flogged us with his germs from school. And then a 3-year-old who just started like kinder daycare 1 day a week, and we finally got saved back to school last Wednesday after like a week and a half off, and then literally that day he came down with hand, foot and mouth. So we've been home and he shared that with the 1-year-old by the weekend, and then I sort of came down with a cough which became bronchitis. So we've just really been quite isolated anyway, so just doing the bare essentials like the shopping and doing school drop off. But it's been awful having to sort of leave the house. I've felt like a bit of a leper because my cough sounds awful and I haven't had a voice, and it just and I'm finding within myself just a bit on edge and a bit ratty, I think, just because we haven't had play dates, I haven't seen any sort of mum friends really besides a bit of school drop off, but I've been distancing myself really if I can and not talking to many people just throughout this last few weeks. So it just makes me think, gosh, how am I going to be in a few weeks' time if come next week we're all told no, schools are definitely closed, stay at home. So I'm just starting to think about the ways that I need to sort of help myself manage that. I'm really noticing even in my 3-year-old, because he hasn't had kinder for the last 2 weeks, which means he actually hasn't had, I've just sort of realised he hasn't actually played with any other kids besides his siblings for like a good 2 weeks or so now. So I think I'm even noticing in his behaviour sort of demands with just constantly wanting food, like more food. And I think for him that's a boredom thing, like asking constantly for food. So even today I think I've structured the day a bit more about what we're doing. And I think I've seen a lot online about people structuring their day like school, doing certain activities and snacks at certain times, just so there is that bit of more routine and structure, which I don't normally do as a parent, say over school holiday period. We're a lot more sort of go with it, and we're usually going out and about to, a zoo or something like that, but we obviously won't probably be able to do that very soon. So for me, I'm sort of trying to think of ways in my parenting that I can help the situation so we don't all go a bit stir crazy, because I definitely already feel a bit stir crazy. And also just how can I try to get myself well while, the other kids have been sick and I'm just, not really getting much time to rest. So we have used TV a lot more during, when the 1-year-old's asleep, like now. But I also don't want to keep doing that every day either. So, it's trying to manage that guilt of, I want to sort of get a few things done for myself and do a little bit of work, and not trying to feel too guilty about that, but then also getting some motivation to do, some other stuff. And I'm hoping the motivation will come once I feel 100% as well. There's definitely been moments where I've just felt, really awful about being outside or talking to others when people have sort of physically stepped away from me. If I've had to have a cough or something like that, you just want a big sign on your head saying it's bronchitis. It's not, I'm not, that sort of infectious. But then I've also seen really lovely things like sort of like a neighbour that lives in our street, doesn't even go to the same school, but I know she's been sort of struck down at home with sick kids as well. And she just randomly came to our door yesterday with like a bag of like fresh vegetables and fruit from her garden that she's grown, like just really randomly. There's a lot of people posting things online about, if you've got things that, extra nappies or wipes and things like that. My mum's group were really like sort of checking in on each other. We've got one mum that's come back from Bali yesterday, so she'll be in isolation for 2 weeks, even like away from her kids for an extra 2 weeks, which is really awful for them. So, sort of checking in, especially with her, about does she need anything dropped at her door, or I'm just really loving that side of it. I'm obviously really disappointed about, seeing the state of the shops and what people have been doing. And even things like myself, I've realised I've got cloth nappies sitting here that I'm not using. So I've just sort of put those up for anyone that wants them if they want to convert to cloth nappies while this is going on. And my library of books that I've got if people want to be reading books. So I think just trying to think outside the square about how we can help each other. And I think that's been really, I've really enjoyed seeing that, and gives me hope that, people are going to look out for each other, because there's obviously been instances where people haven't been looking out for each other. Yeah, and for me, for business wise, I'm in the process of sort of just getting off the ground, because I only finished your course in November. So I just run my first circle last month, which was awesome, and then all of this has happened. So sort of throwing myself into the online world, which is super out of my comfort zone. But I think, the only way to move forward. So I'm actually running on Sunday night just with some close family and friends, like a little practice sort of mothers group catch up sort of thing, just so they can be forgiving if I'm not getting the tech right or anything like that. And then as of next week, I've opened up a mother circle online, and we'll probably even think about doing that weekly for a little while, especially if we go into lockdown in the next week or two. So yeah, just trying to throw myself into that side of it. But yeah, that's what's going on for me, just sickness, and I think we'll probably all get well, and then we'll be all in lockdown. So yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing, Rachel. A couple of things really stand out, and I think you're really right to make that suggestion of having a bit more of a routine. There's been some really great, homeschooling, work from home routines.
Yes.
And it can be a good time to pick up like a new hobby, or to do something that's outside your comfort zone that you wouldn't normally do. So try and create a routine where you've got, like a little bit of exercise, learning something new, spending time doing something together as a family. There's quite a lot of resources and stories and ideas and things like that out there now, which I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I know there's someone in the collective who is offering free herbal consults online, and will post you some herbs. So, and I was thinking that too, Bree's friend who's a naturopath. So if you need any kind of immune boosting, there's probably going to be some cool options for that as well. Because yes, like you were saying, it's hard going into something like this being sick already.
Yeah.
Yes, and I know those feelings. I remember all those days when my kids used to bring home all the bugs, and it's so frustrating, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, at least the whole world will be home with you next time, so
exactly.
you'll be able to connect with some people online. Thank you for sharing. Daniela, you're next on my list if you're happy to go now.
Hi, thank you for hosting, Julia. It's a beautiful idea. I think one of the most beautiful things that's going on at the moment is so many people are just looking for ways that they can support, and they're just stepping up and doing it. And if they've got the time and the space and the energy, they're just stepping up and they're doing things to help everybody. So our local wellness centre, they haven't done it yet, but they're going to be doing meditation videos and putting them up, which is really nice. So I've got kind of two local areas, Newcastle and 90 minutes north of there. So where I am, I'm fairly isolated, so I'm actually feeling quite grateful for our isolation. And honestly, moving from the city to here, I've spent the last year learning what it is to be more isolated. So as our whole family, so I'm kind of okay with that part of it. And just grateful that, I can get outside and I can easily get the fresh air and the sunshine, and really move about without running into people at all. My mother is in Newcastle, and she's a worry because she doesn't tend to, she's a nurse, so she's indestructible. She's a retired nurse. She's 73 this year. Breathing would be the weakest part of her body. The common cold knocks her right over. So it just concerns me that she's just really playing that. I mean, she's sensible, but she won't answer the question, are you staying at home? Just won't answer the question. So I take it that means she's going out. I don't know if that means she's going to her stretch classes or whatever else it is that she does. But yeah, I would say my main worry in life would be her, just because she thinks she's so indestructible. And I know that she's sensible, and I get that. And she would see me as overreacting a little bit. And she hasn't asked, so I haven't kind of said that her granddaughter is home from school at the moment. That's kind of, you know, she's virtually 13 now, so that's a decision that we've all come to together. And it was only after we came to that, and, you know, I mean, some of you might know she homeschooled for 6 months last year, and then what you may not know is she then turned around and said that she wanted to go to high school. So, so she's gone back in, and she's been doing so well with it, but now she's just so confused, I guess, would be the best way of putting it. She's just confused by just a lack of clarity on what they should be, you know, what they should be doing and what they were doing. And anyway, when we decided yesterday that, look, you know, one day off's not going to hurt anyone, just stay home, have a rest. It was after that she kind of said, well, by the way, I felt like throwing up multiple times yesterday. And I'm like, okay, that's just, you know, it's a normal response to an energy that's probably really, really unsettled at school. And I mean, lots of her teachers, out of 5 classes, she had 2 of her normal teachers. And numbers were down by about a quarter. So yeah, I guess I'm really just struggling to, we don't generally watch the news, but we have watched a couple of episodes just to stay up. And yeah, I guess I'm struggling to give her any sense of it, because not being able to make sense of it myself. Yeah, and I mean, my partner is in the Department of Education, but he doesn't work directly with students, but generally his daily routine comes into contact with large numbers of people daily. And, you know, it's all a bit, it all contradicts each other, because they say, well, no, don't go near the school, actually. That's your role, but we're keeping you in the office. So he could easily work from home, but they're not letting them do that either. So it just, yeah, so I mean, I just think it's mixed messages. Even though I feel, you know, personally quite safe, you know, like we're quite healthy. We don't have high risk other than my mum, and I can't kind of lock her up. So she'll do what she does, and they're her choices. But yeah, I just think, and when you're talking to pregnant women as well, it's like, well, there's all the do I, don't I. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just the lack of clarity on what is the best thing. And I mean, I'm just going with the call that it is your personal decision to take the course of action that you're most comfortable with and do whatever gives you the most peace of mind, essentially. And to reassure people that more and more businesses and support services are going online, so that if you don't feel comfortable going out to those places in person, that, you know, things are coming. If they're not available right now, that people are definitely working on it, and things will be available, like people who are going to do free antenatal classes and stuff like that. I'm just seeing in the mothers groups on Facebook, they're kind of going, well, it's been cancelled, what do I do? Yeah, that kind of thing, I think is, and I mean, I don't think it's a worry, because I think the good thing is that people are responding, but I think just being able to get the message out, I don't know, I just think it's just, yeah, confusion. I think confusion's a bit of a, you know, lack of clarity, generally, I think is just causing a lot of concern, and it might be some time before we may not get clarity. I don't know. Yeah, life without clarity. You know, of big things, and just following your own personal radar. So, and yeah, I've got friends who, you know, single, have children, have bricks and mortar businesses with rent to pay and mortgages. And yeah, just trying to bolster them up and say stay positive. Kind of makes me want to cry, because it's like, well, I know what it's like to be that person. I've been that person. I'm not that, that's not my life situation now, but I know what it's like to be there, and I can only imagine just how stressful that really is. And to just, you know, like I talked to this morning, it's like you just go to work and you just walk in that door and you just, you know, smile and you give them the support that you give them every other day. Whoever's there, you just give them that support. And you just tell them that you're taking it one day at a time. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's me. On the other positive note, the beautiful posts around the world of what Mother Earth's doing and what nature's doing and what the animals are doing and what the air pollution levels are. Yeah, I mean, there's there's side effects from every situation, and I just think that there are some positive ones. So if the earth needed to breathe, it's happening. So yeah, there's different ways of looking at things, I guess, is the other thing. And just being able to listen to everybody's point of view, including your potentially crazy 70-plus-year-old mother, without giving it too much of a hard time. Yeah, so that's me. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Daniela. Yeah, we've had a similar situation in my family where we've had, you know, senior members of our family not really taking it seriously, particularly when they are at particular risk. And it's been actually the daughters, not me personally, because they weren't in my family, but we've had daughters who've been ringing up their parents and saying, you really have to listen to this, you really have to take it seriously. And you know, they still don't really take it seriously personally, but they are doing that now for their daughters, you know, not for themselves. So it's interesting. It's an interesting world, isn't it? So I don't know how much you can or want to talk to your mum, but you know, you know, you wouldn't be the first daughter to give her the hard line, I think. I agree completely with the confusion, and I think it's because we've got a real lack of leadership here. I think we also have a huge lack of trust here. We've had a government who did not lead us well through the last crisis we faced only very recently in this country. So I think we don't trust them to make good decisions, and that leads to a lot of lack of clarity. One of the best leaders I've seen in this is the Prime Minister of Singapore, and I don't even know how you pronounce his name, Lee Hsien Loong. But if you want to look up any of his stuff, he's making some really beautiful speeches, and although the situation is different in every country, it sometimes can be nice to see good leadership and, you know, get a bit more clarity that we're not getting in our own country. Yes, Becky says her parents are the same. They only just today cancelled their vacation, no reasoning with them. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got friends visiting from the UK, and they, even when the Prime Minister called them home, they still didn't really take it seriously. And it was their daughter ringing them up and saying, you have to do this. I don't care whether you want to or not, you have to cancel your holiday and come home. So they still haven't booked flights till Sunday. So, you know, still taking them a little while. But there we go. It's happening. So I think we just have to accept other people's choices, but also if they're people that we love, we can also say, look, I'm doing this because I love you and I feel anxious and worried. Which is the other thing I just wanted to mention before we move on. You know, your daughter, you were saying your daughter's feeling very anxious, Daniela. I think that's a valid reason to stay home. You know, that is a legitimate health concern. And if it makes people feel better to just chill at home, you know, for the next little while, then that's perfectly reasonable. And like Bree was saying earlier, we shouldn't judge anyone for their choices. There's no such thing as overreacting to this kind of situation. Everyone just does what's right for them, and everyone does what they can. Yeah, right. Emmeline says parents of a friend are on holiday in England and refusing to come home, they might end up locked out. Yeah, it's very true that, you know, if they aren't taking this seriously, then probably governments will be forcing them to take it seriously very soon. All right, Julianne, I've got you next. If you're happy to chat, you're in a very isolated place as well, which is, something of a benefit right now.
I am, yeah. So I live in Ontario, Canada, and so all of our schools are shut down. And so we have spring break this week, and then the schools have been shut down for 2 weeks after that. The majority of our businesses are shut down. So restaurants, like just regular retail stores. So basically pharmacies and grocery stores are open and essential services. So we are in this, like we've declared a state of emergency, I guess, for the province. So this all escalated really, really quickly for us from last Thursday on to, it seems like, almost hour by hour, the situation has been changing, and it's even hard to keep up with all the press conferences and, on the federal level and on the provincial level. But it's been a really strange time. And so we've just gradually, the schools were the first to shut down, and then we've gradually seen everything shut down after that. So in that sense, it gives us a lot of clarity in terms of, what our limitations are. They're saying we're not really allowed gatherings of 10 or more people. And so we have to be careful about that. All the churches have shut down. So we're really, I guess, the isolation, I think, we're already in a rural area, but I think sort of the isolation of just watching, everything shut down around us is starting to really sink in. And I normally try and stay away from the news, but just to stay up to date and keep up with, what's happening and what the recommendations are. I found myself being, consuming a lot of news. So my nervous system has been really, feeling the effects of that. And I've really had to pull out my strategies and, just work on mindfulness and present moment awareness and calming my nervous system. And also for the sake of the kids, but also with the kids as well, and just reassuring them and, working on that with them. And I have to say that when they announced the school closures, I created this schedule, and I thought, okay, we're going to do all these things, and I'm going to meal plan, and I'm going to, make all these amazing meals, and we're going to have these activities, and we're going to rotate, and it's going to be like this. And so, it's day 5. And let's just say it's not happening the way I was hoping. But I think that's a good lesson in and of itself. It's not really time to put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and so it is, I think there's creativity to be found in these times, and there's rest, and I think there are different things that this time is going to offer each of us. But we don't necessarily need to be putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to create this awesome, this awesome isolation experience, because it is hard and, and it's going to be boring at times, and it's going to get long. And actually our Prime Minister recently said that he suspects it'll be weeks or months for us. So this could go on for a long time. Our school year ends at the end of June. So I'm thinking it's likely that the kids won't return to school this year, which is, a really big deal. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're pretty much on lockdown already. And so in terms of what's inspiring, I mean, similar things to what everybody's been mentioning, just watching ways that people are responding and, just adjusting their businesses or their services to suit other people. There's a school teacher that is doing these Facebook Lives for kids here in our province, and I found her today, and that's kind of fun because it'll give the kids something to maybe do or just keep current with some of their learning, because we haven't really been given any work for them. So yeah, and today, for the first time in forever, I FaceTimed with my sister and my nieces. And so it's kind of there's this impetus to create connection, which I'm really, really liking. I really value connection, but I'm already seeing like, wow, I can't believe it's been so long since we've had that sort of a chat. And, so everybody has so much more time right now. And even just thinking in terms of like new moms, one of the things that I always found, or that I find as a postpartum professional, is it's a bit of a hard sell to ask moms to slow down and rest. Like they want to, but they struggle to do it. And I think that's partly because the world is still speeding around them. But now, everyone is sort of joining in this slowing down, right? So it's this international global phenomenon. So anyway, I'm just taking it all in and trying to stay sane, but yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a lot, Julianne. I think you're the only, is there anyone else on the call who's not in Australia? I'm not sure. I think you might be the only one, but because how many cases do you have in Canada? I don't think it's largely very different than Australia.
I think we're up to about 400 or 500 cases now.
So we have around the same number in Australia, but our government has not shut down anything. We're not having events bigger than 100 people, but schools are open, universities are open, restaurants and cafes are open. And I think this grey area is why so many people in Australia are freaking out, because we're like, other countries are acting way ahead of us, and then we have to make decisions individually,
That's right.
because there's no guidance, there's no clarity, that like Daniela was saying.
Yeah, for sure. Like even our universities have shut down, where, local airlines have stopped flying, closed until like June. Like it's really like this national, like everything's closing. So, and I was concerned a little bit about the self-employment income too, like because I want to pivot and sort of shift my work online. So I'm offering online postpartum sessions, and I do want to get a mother's group going, because I think that could help some of the moms, especially locally here, beat the isolation, but obviously around the world. But our Prime Minister did announce funds for small business owners as well to help carry us through this time. So that's a bit of a relief as well. And I know that, anyway, I know how much of a blessing that is too. Yeah.
Yeah. A few things.
Such a strange time.
Yeah, it is such a strange time, isn't it? And like you were saying, we just have to take every day as it comes. In Singapore, again, who are really leading the world in their response to this, the Prime Minister has a WhatsApp group, and every citizen in Singapore is in that WhatsApp group and gets an update twice a day directly from the Prime Minister. That's the kind of leadership we're lacking here, because we don't know who to listen to. We're having, like you, to get stuck in this news cycle and getting our information from the media, because we don't have a clear, way of knowing what's going on. Does ScoMo know how to use WhatsApp? He's now called Slow-Mo, I think. It's his new official title. So yes, it's not surprising that everyone in Australia is a bit confused and overwhelmed right now. A couple of my strategies I just thought I'd share that are keeping me really happy right now, well, really happy for a moment, is listening to the Guilty Feminist podcast. If you haven't started listening to that, it is so hilarious that I actually look like a lunatic when I'm listening to it, because I'm laughing out loud when I'm, driving my car or walking along the street, and everyone's like, what is wrong with her? So go and check it out. Deborah Frances-White. She's Australian, but has lived in America. Sorry, not America. Has lived in the UK for quite a while. So go and listen to The Guilty Feminist. The other thing I'm loving listening to is Beyonce. And we, as a family, have decided to learn the dance to, what's that great film clip? Put a Ring on It. So we're going to spend a little bit of time every day learning that dance. So there's just some silly fun things that we're doing to sort of support our mental health, keep us happy and connected during this time. There was something else someone shared earlier. Yeah, loving that the slow living movement has gone mainstream. I know. I've been kind of thinking like maybe this is like a 40 days for the world, like maybe we can actually treat this as a transformational time for everyone to reflect and think about what they want from life. And yes, and there was also some comments there about not putting pressure on ourselves. I think that was a really good point that you made, Julianne, that, you know, this is not the time to try and be a perfect parent. If your kids watch a bit more TV than usual, totally okay. You know, we're just going to have to do whatever it takes to get through this. Emmeline says, some people on Instagram I'm finding helpful as leaders: Sarah Wilson, Elizabeth Gilbert, and Glennon Doyle. That's really great. Thank you. I'll look up them too. And Tanya, yes, an opportunity to experience the 4th trimester. I love it. So Katie, I've got you up next if you want to have a chat. Was there anything else, Julianne?
No, that's great. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Thank you for sharing.
Hey, Julia.
Hey, Katie, it's so nice to connect with you. Or, you know, like, just for other people who don't know, a lot of these people I have in groups in the past, and we haven't connected in a little while. So it's really nice to come back together and get an update. And, you know, like you were saying, Julianne, this could be a good excuse for us to connect with people we haven't been keeping in touch with enough. So it's lovely to see you again, Katie.
Yeah, you too. I've missed you from our mastermind.
Yes.
And I've actually, yeah, this is a really good reminder. I've participated in online women's circles before, and yeah, I'd actually forgotten that these can work really well. And I think this has just been an example. And I think a lot of it is the mirroring. So like every time that someone tells their story, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like it's really powerful. And yeah, I don't think you have to be in a room with candles and everything, you know, which is beautiful as well, obviously, to connect face to face. But I think this is can be just as powerful in this setting. So thank you. And it's certainly something which is why I was so keen to be here today, something I'm considering for my business, because I have been 1 year in the planning stages of my mother's group, and it was due to start next week. So I've actually cancelled that. So I'm just sort of working out what I do from a business perspective there. But on a personal note, similar to Rachel, I've just also been pretty much in self-isolation, sort of, for the last 6 weeks or so. I was pregnant, and I had really horrendous morning sickness. So I have been really, really unwell and a bit out of action. And it's affected my business as well. I've had to cancel some visits and that because I've been so unwell with a couple of clients. Well, yeah, I've actually just postponed those ones. They were with clients who weren't postpartum clients, so they had other stuff going on. And I've sort of got these packages that I do like online, and then including like one visit. So those 2 clients have been really understanding about needing to postpone for sickness. But now, of course, this postponement is just sort of, you know, like, who knows when those visits might happen, but that's okay because we've sort of got the online support and they've been checking in, and that's been fine. But more personally, I actually did experience a miscarriage last week, and so that's just, I suppose, just been a bit bizarre, because obviously that was, you know, a very like personal experience of grief and bizarreness, and then just in the context of what's happening globally, like it just feels, I'm just in a really bizarre place that I just sort of feel like, I was sort of finally I was looking forward to being at the end of my first trimester where I was going to be well enough to actually be having the energy to put back in my business. And then I had the miscarriage, and then this, it just sort of feels like, oh God, like give me a break, you know, like had been really, yeah, I think I'm just in a really weird place because of all of that. So I actually just wrote some notes actually, because I was just feeling like as soon as I mention that, I'm probably going to get a bit emotional. So yeah, I think the way I've been affected the most with all this coronavirus stuff is I've really struggled with the judgment. Like there's been so much judgment of other people, and like others have mentioned, that's also been a struggle of mine. It has been the lack of leadership, like, and just this confusing time of like, what do we, you know, like they're saying keep the schools open, we've got other experts saying keep your kids home, and just not knowing what to do. And even like the top epidemiologists in the country can't decide actually, you know, like you can't agree on what the best course of action is in terms of when is the best time to quarantine and all of that. And it's just like hurt my heart a bit, just seeing this judgment of people, either for being overprotective versus being socially irresponsible. You know, it's just this like, I've sort of sit in the middle. I've really struggled to know what to do with my kids. I mean, the decision we've made was we sent them Monday, but then we kept them home Wednesday. And I don't really know. I mean, I suppose, again, probably similar to, I can't remember who was saying this before, but we are in a position where I work from home. So I can actually keep them home. And I sort of think, well, maybe we're doing the right thing by keeping them home because we can, whereas other people who can't, aren't in that position, like maybe that balances out a little bit. So, and I sort of have also thought, like, what's the worst thing that can happen by keeping them home? Like, there's probably no negative. Like, my kids are little, so they're almost 5, almost 3. So I've got one in kinder and one at childcare. So really, I don't think, that's a decision we've made, and I don't know what will happen next week.
But you don't need to justify that either, Katie, because your decision is right for your family.
And I think, see, look, I've done it already. Like, I've jumped into like trying to justify it, and it's just like, why am I even feeling like I need to justify it? Like, everyone has different experience, everyone has different life experiences, and they're going to be getting their knowledge from different places and different information. And I just feel like everyone is making the best decisions they can right now with the information they've got for themselves, for their families, for the community. I think that's the thing that's upset me the most, is just this judgment out there. I'm feeling it really strongly. So that's probably been one of the biggest challenges for me. I don't like, in terms of having them home, I'm very happy to have them home. So I don't feel particularly pressured, or that my life, like, that's going to inconvenience my life particularly. So, so I'm okay to keep them home. That's sort of where we're at there. What else was I going to say? Oh, in terms of, from the business side of things, I think it's really, really hard. I don't know if other people are in this boat where, like, you just want to, like, you sort of just have this overwhelming need to give and provide free things and be really community minded and support and all of that. So I sort of like, and I think probably a lot of people in businesses like this are going to be similar people, giving, sort of people that want to be out there supporting everyone. But I suppose the flip side of that is we also have businesses to run as well. So I suppose it's just that balance of wanting to be really generous and everything, versus also, I suppose it's the people in our position that are going to be losing out financially because of this as well. So it's just sort of that balance of, I mean, wanting to give, but also, these businesses have to sort of run as well. But I've just seen so much innovation. Like, the positives have just been so much innovation from different people. Like, for example, like the play gym class I take my kids to once a week, or they've created this, I can't remember what they've called it now, something on the TV, so that we can do all these activities at home, and they've just set up a Facebook group, and I'm just posting things about that. So, like, that's just one tiny example. There's so many out there, I think, of businesses who are just being really innovative, and I think it's forcing us to actually think outside the box, think outside the square. And it'd be really interesting to see when this is all over how that does actually change the world, and us thinking differently about how we provide our services. And again, like everyone else has mentioned, just the beautiful environmental impacts that we've seen, I think we'll continue to see as well. Certainly been a positive. And just the focus on, like, what's really important. Like, it's really, I think we've all sort of, slowed down and actually really tuned into what is most important in our lives. And for me, it's just brought a huge amount of love and gratitude for what I have, and particularly my children. Like, I just feel so blessed to have my 2 kids right now. And
Oh, I wish I could give you a cuddle, Katie.
Thanks.
And I feel like maybe you need to have we can all give a big cuddle on the screen.
Thank you.
A big, like, coronavirus kiss. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Katie. That was a lot, and I feel like you maybe need to keep talking. So I don't know if there's anyone in this group who can maybe continue to have a chat with you and keep sharing in the group. Yeah. And I know you have good support anyway. So
I do. I have an enormous amount of support, and I think that's why I'm actually doing so well. Like, I actually, the miscarriage happened while I was at a festival on the weekend, with surrounded by women, this circle of women, and I just feel that so strongly, that power of women supporting women. I literally shared all weekend for 3 days straight. I was sharing my story and receiving a huge amount of support, which has continued. And I really think that's sort of what's getting me through at the moment as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm glad to hear it,
I
Katie.
haven't read all the comments,
That's
but
a
thank
lot.
you, everyone. I saw a few popping up.
Yeah, there's lots of comments. Christie's, I'm just going to read out because it was a long and beautiful one. But she says, maybe the judgment is coming from the space of fear and anxiety that people are currently experiencing. It's a way of checking in with themselves and others about whether they are making decisions that are right for them in a world where the decisions are up for scrutiny and in a climate of daily shifting expectations of what is right. It's very similar to the experience of becoming a new mother and entering parenthood and deciding what's important to you and what you want to do as a parent, regardless of what the world tells you to do. Yeah, I think that's really true. Christy, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Very insightful. We've got one more person to hear from. Emmeline, if you want to have a chat. And really thank you for sharing, Katie. That was a lot. I didn't know you'd lost your baby, so I'm really sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi.
Hey, Emmeline, nice to hear from you. Oh, hang on, I've accidentally muted you again.
Okay, cool.
You're in, go now.
Sorry, because I just unmuted myself.
Yes, no, you unmuted it and then I muted at the same time. So here we are.
Oh yeah, I just put a comment in the chat about people who are comfortable with their decisions are rarely judgmental about others. So that's probably where it's coming from.
Yes, really good point.
Like say you didn't sleep train your kid and then but you're just not sure about your decision, and then you're judgmental of people who do sleep train, and probably the same with this because it's that coming from that uncertainty. Yeah, well, the main thing that's going on with me is, and I'm just trying to be careful about how to talk about this in something that's going to be viewed by other people, but it's not really. Anyway, so my husband's a pilot, and he's just really unsure about his job security at the moment. So he's not sure what's going to happen with his job, and even if he keeps the job, like, is the airline going to just close, basically? And we're very like environmentally conscious people, and he feels a little bit awkward about the morality of being a pilot. Like, he loves being a pilot and flying planes, but like, for example, I went to a climate action picnic a few weeks ago, and he didn't want to come. Well, he couldn't come anyway, but he was like, could have come to at the end, and like didn't want to join because he was worried people would be judgmental of him. And it's like, and I said that to the group. I was like, oh, he's not meeting us here. I just have to go off and meet him. Because he was coming straight from work and he's like in his pilot uniform. And
he's worried someone's going to throw an egg at him or something, which I'm sure they actually wouldn't do.
No, because there are activists who like go to airports and like stop planes from flying, which is really dangerous. Anyway, and I mentioned this, and there were these lovely salt of the earth people, and they were just like, well, we all fly planes. Like, we all fly in planes, so we can't be judgmental of people who are pilots. And really, in the long term, like, there is a capacity for pilots, planes to be more sustainable. Like, there's the technology's there, it just needs to be funded. So I think it's mainly partly related to my autism, but the way that I've been coping with this crisis is very much, I'm just thinking very big picture, and I'm really wondering what's going to happen. Like, the world's not normal, and I don't think we're going to go back to normal, but what's that going to look like? So even what if all the airlines just all closed? What would happen then? Obviously that would be a bunch of emissions that aren't happening, and we're already seeing the emission reduction impact. Like, it's sort of like people are like, I had a text from a friend saying, oh, it's the apocalypse, how are you coping? And it sort of feels like that. And so my brain starts thinking about, well, what if the economy crashes, and what does that mean for us? Like, what's really important? and go back to thoughts about gardening and community, and that's just where my brain goes. And I feel like maybe related to my autism, I don't find it as disruptive or stressful. Like, I'm really stressed probably more by the vibe than by what's actually happening, like the emotional energy that's going around. But in terms of being disrupted and destabilized, I feel like I'm better able to cope with that than neurotypicals, because they're used to life just being like all the society rules and stuff, everything, all the rules are broken, but I was never really invested in the rules anyway. I'm just like playing along with the game. And so, and then just, yeah, thinking in the big picture. And my husband and I have been having lots of talks about like how we can deal, like if he did lose his job or whatever. Like we're talking about just going on the road with the Land Cruiser. And we're really happy. We tried to buy a house at the end of last year, and we're really happy that it fell through, because like that's one less commitment. And we rent from Matt's parents, so we could just cancel that rental arrangement at any time. And then with my business, I'm really destabilized by that. And I had been thinking, because I'm just starting out, same as Rachel, I just did the course last year, end of last year. And so I had been thinking, oh, I'll do like a local service, like a one-on-one service for a few years. And then once I got the credibility, I'll like have an online business. But then I'm now thinking that's probably just a story I've been telling myself, that I need to do the one before the other. And it's probably all about role modeling too. And like, oh, well, that's what Julia did. So, but I think, yeah, 11 months in the Land Cruiser. Awesome. Yeah, and if I did have an online business and it was successful, I could support my family and not have to live in any particular place. Yeah, I guess that's mainly what's been going on. But then how do you advertise that? And like all the normal avenues of like calm birth class and yoga class, are people even going to be going to those? So I suppose that's probably something that Julia will address in April's lessons. And because I don't like Facebook as well. I like Instagram, but I really hate Facebook. I don't want to use it for my business, but everyone seems to use it. So how's that going to work? One more thing is, like, we have cancelled, we have a weekly Bible study and we've cancelled it this week, but I put on the group chat and said maybe we can look into doing something online for next week. I have this feeling of I'm really happy to cancel events and just want to like shut down and hermit, but I really feel like that's not the right thing. And I'm really glad that I happened to see that this chat was happening to be able to connect. So possibly if I can run an online Bible study that's just, you know, friends and not a professional environment, that would be good practice for doing something that is professional.
You can talk a bit longer, you don't have to immediately
stop.
You were like,
yep, time's up.
No, finish up.
My highlight is so we normally use cloth nappies for my 2-year-old, but we use disposables at night generally because he leaks through them. And I was trying to use cloth again because so that to leave the nappies for other people who don't use cloth, but then he leaked through and woke up at 6:30. I was like, this won't do, because he normally wakes up at 7:15. And so then I was like, oh, I don't want to go to the shops. There's not going to be any nappies. That's going to be madness. And a friend was checking in, and then she looked on her buy, I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but she looked on her local Buy Nothing group, and someone had offered a packet of nappies. And she said, do you want me to comment for you and you can get them? And I was like, yes, please. And then she said yes. And so after we dropped our kid off at daycare, we just drove another 10 minutes and to this random house, and there's a bag of nappies out the front, and we took them home. So I got to save a trip to the shop and however many dollars, probably paid a bit in fuel, but just knowing that people are out there being supportive. And so for myself, we've got a whole lot of cloth nappies that we hardly use, and I was thinking of putting them on my local Bone Nothing group and saying anyone who wants them, who doesn't want to face the crowds, I'll help you know how to use them, because people get so scared, don't know how to wash them and stuff, and I'll be like, I'll tell you how to wash them, don't worry. Yeah, Katie says I've just done this too, and so is Rachel. Well, it feels a bit silly to say, but they're the kind we don't really like. So we don't use them. But just because the poo gets stuck in the crevices.
But all babies are different shapes and sizes anyway, so they might work fine for a different family.
Yeah, and all parents like different cloth nappies. So, and it'll be a good excuse for us to buy more of the ones we do like, because we're, in a financial position to still buy stuff. So I think that's it for me. That was my highlight, really, the nappies, and not just the woman who posted them, but my friend who organised it for me.
Thank you, Emmeline. That was a lot. Yeah, Katie says her daughter's just stopped wearing nappies. I feel very lucky we're out of day nappies, and we use cloth at night anyway. So I usually have a few disposables around as a backup. I just have to keep on top of laundry now, but same, it's not hard for us. Gosh, there was a lot in there, Emmeline. One thing I wanted to comment on is the economy. I know a lot of people are giving away things for free, and that is beautiful, but I also think if we have businesses that can survive this downturn, we should keep selling things if we can, because it's likely this isn't going to just be a recession, but it may actually be a depression. And for anyone who knows, I'm going to get emotional about this, about depressions, people die, so we need to keep this economy moving in any way that we possibly can. So anyone who can afford to buy things should, and anyone who can continue to sell things should, and we should be doing this as an act of love and service. So don't feel obliged to give everything away for free. It is very much needed right now that we are keeping as many jobs as we possibly can, because a depression is going to be a really terrible thing for the most vulnerable people amongst us. So if you can, keep spending, and if you can, keep selling, and don't feel guilty about that at all. So that's kind of the biggest thing I wanted to mention, because I know a few people have kind of felt a bit like, oh, should I just make everything free? Yeah, and Rachel says she went to a local cafe and got a smoothie. Yeah, do anything you can to support these local businesses. We really need to keep people in jobs right now. There also, the other thing I wanted to say, yes, as an autistic woman, Emmeline, I could relate a little bit to what you were talking about. Some of the things that have been cancelled, I'm really relieved about, because there's stuff that I always didn't like going to anyway and felt like obliged to kind of fit in. And also not having to hug and kiss random strangers is also a huge relief for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I stay home a lot anyway, and I always have quite a strict routine, and so these things are so comfortable and easy for me. So I think there are different personalities that are going to find this easier or harder. I saw someone tweeting the other day, introverts, tell me how to entertain myself at home, but for me, I'm always at home. I leave my house as rarely as I possibly can anyway, so it's kind of, for different people, it's going to be easier or harder. And I think the last thing I wanted to mention, I think it's really great that you're going to continue your Bible group, Emmeline. And I noticed you said a comment earlier. Someone was saying that there was what's it called? Antenatal class. I think it was a birthing class that was cancelled and offered no online replacement. I think everyone who can possibly do it online, because people still need to, have access to services. So really do try and stay open, keep running things, stay connected, keep offering services, because, these babies are still going to be born, and, they're still going to need that same kind of preparation and support. We're just going to have to find creative ways of doing things. Yeah, Christy says, I've realised I'm an extrovert and isolation is a big health trigger for me. I think that's going to be really important to keep in mind. I know there's already something called the Social Distancing Festival, and there's also a COVID conference online. So there's going to be heaps of big online events coming up in the next month or so. So if you are an extrovert, then those are the kind of things that you're going to want to find out about. And also find groups like this where you can actually chat and connect with people, even though it's not in real life. Rachel says, your battery's running out. No worries at all. Okay. Yes, and Christy says, if you are an extrovert who takes the energy from being physically engaged with someone, this will be a hard time. Yeah, and people I know are talking about self-isolating with other people. So I know there are some families who are saying, let's all share a house for the next month or two, with a slightly extended group of people than you'd normally have. So if that's how you're feeling, you can find another family to self-isolate with or quarantine with, so that you've got a few more people to hang out with. And this might be particularly for single mums, for example, as well. All right. That's it, I think. I don't know if anyone else has any last thoughts. I had just a quote that I wanted to share with you that I think is really beautiful right now. Hopefully I can find it. Here it is. It's Kitty O'Meara. And if anyone knows where this is from in any more detail, then that would be great, because I don't actually know where this is from, except that it was Kitty O'Meara who said it. And this is what she said. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently. And the people healed. And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. So I really, really loved that. And I think we can all try and take this opportunity as a moment. With every death and with every grief and every tragedy, there comes an opportunity for rebirth. And whilst we would never choose to go through something like this, now that it's happening and there's no way we can, change that, then as much as we can try and use this as a chance to heal, to reconnect, and to think of new ways of being. Yes, and Julianne says it's like a global 40 days transformation is coming. So let's all stick together and try and make this transformation a positive one. Thank you so much all for being here. And Daniela says, sorry, sick fur baby vomit on the bed. Oh no. And this is the thing, how nice that we can share this together, that you're not at home alone dealing with that, and we can all have a laugh about it. And yes, good luck cleaning that up. Thank you so much. I will stay connected with you all on Facebook, and and I'll be coming out with a bunch more resources to set people up online too. If you can, do everything within your power to stay connected, to stay calm, to stay supporting and loving each other, to keep your businesses open, and to continue supporting mums and families online. Love to you all. Bye.